The spies came back. 10 of them said, "There are giants in the land. We cannot go up." There were 2 spies with a different spirit. They said, "God's promises are true. The covenant he gave to our forefathers is still valid." The world says, "We must give land for peace." We say, "Christians must stand with Judea and Samaria." The world presents a biased and negative representation. It is now time for the Joshua and Caleb Report. Stories from the heartland of Israel.
Mr. David, it's really great to be with you here today. Can you just share with us a little bit of your story and being here in Shiloh?
Well, I came here about 21 years ago. I moved here from the United States, and I came here as a single person. I came to Shiloh. I came almost directly to Shiloh. I was in Jerusalem for a few months, and then I moved to Shiloh by myself. Within a few months, I met my wife, and we got married, and we've been here ever since. It was actually kind of interesting because Shiloh is the place where the men of Benjamin came to find their brides. And they saw these young maidens dancing in the vineyards in their white dresses. Well, that's how I met my wife.
Oh, really?
She was, well, maybe not in the white dress, maybe not dancing, but we met based on the merit of Shiloh, the spiritual merit of Shiloh. Anyhow, I've been here ever since. I spent many years in the field of education, and then I became active politically. I was elected the mayor of the community, and I served as mayor for a couple of years. And a year after that, my 3-year-old son and I were coming back from Jerusalem when the car was ambushed, and we were attacked by terrorists who were firing AK-47 assault rifles with AK-47 assault rifles at the car. A bullet went into my leg, and blood came out all over the place, and a bullet hit my son in the head and causing a skull fracture, internal bleeding in the cerebellum. The bullet went through his neck, missing his brain stem by 1 millimeter. That whole experience, in which we were left stranded, the car was not starting. We miraculously got it to start and got away from the terrorists eventually, and got to an ambulance and got to safety, and we both survived. So we praise God every day for that blessing, and that we managed to survive the attack and to turn it into something good.
Mm-hmm. So I guess after an experience like that, the first question everyone has in the back of their mind is why did you, why are you still here? I mean, isn't there things that could have happened that would have I'm sure you had to think about that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. It's clear to me, and it was clear to me right then and there, that the terrorist's goal is to scare people, is to frighten people, and to make them run. First, to kill them, of course, but if they don't succeed in killing them, they want to traumatize them, they want to cause them to run and leave the biblical heartland and leave Israel altogether. And after that experience, I was determined that I am absolutely staying here, and that I am absolutely going to take that trauma, that horror that the terrorists inflicted on us and on so many others, and to turn it into just the opposite of what the terrorists wanted, which is to help people, help the children here, and to help people to stay here, to live better lives, and to build for the future and for the next generations.
So I guess tailing on that as well is how did you explain that to your son though? Like, how did your son, I'm sure as a father, seeing your son going through that, it was hard, obviously, but how did you?
When I was laying there in the ambulance and I heard that he had been hit by, I mean, at first I didn't realize it, by the way. When the bullets hit, I didn't realize that he had been shot. And it was only until I finally got the car to start and drove away from the terrorists and got to an ambulance that at that point I realized that he had been shot and wounded. I didn't know it until then, and maybe that was also a blessing from the Almighty because who knows, I possibly couldn't have been able to function driving the car had I known. How do I explain it to him? Look, at that point he was only 3 years old. He didn't really know what had happened. He was just frightened out of his mind. And at this point, thank God, he's gone on to live a regular life, and he's in school and he's learning, and he's a passionate Torah learner, and he's just a good all-around boy. And he knows what happened. He's starting to really comprehend what happened that day and how we really were saved by the blessings that came from above.
So it's amazing how you turn this awful situation that happened to your own family, and now you're turning it around to actually help others. Can you explain how you're actually coming in to help others now? Well,
what happened was about a year after the attack, as we were going through the recovery process after several operations and psychological trauma therapy and everything like that, I soon started to realize that there are so many other children who have suffered from the trauma of terrorism. You know, we come here, we're very passionate about living in the biblical heartland of Israel, in the place where all of the biblical figures walked, where Joshua, stood here and established the tabernacle in Shiloh, where it stood for 369 years. We're talking about an amazing place where Samuel the prophet grew up, and he was the one who would merit to appoint the first 2 kings of Israel. We're talking about an amazing place that we're all passionate about. But the children aren't born with that passion. They have to be taught, they have to learn and understand, but we give them faith-based education, and they grow up to be passionate about this land. But there is trauma. Children who suffer from terrorism are traumatized. When we had children who've been killed or wounded in terrorist attacks, and parents who've been killed or wounded in terrorist attacks, and teachers who've been killed and wounded in terrorist attacks, it affects everyone. Everyone's traumatized. So when I started to really understand this, how deep the trauma is, that's when I decided to start the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund. Of course, in Hebrew we call it Shiloh, but the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund, to heal the trauma of the terror victim children and to rebuild the biblical heartland of Israel through the children. So we have a therapy center here in Shiloh. We have an educational therapeutic complex using horses and animals and music, movement therapy, all kinds of things that heal the children. We built a petting zoo, a horse farm, and we also have projects all over Samaria. We're building playgrounds, we're helping schools throughout Samaria, throughout the northern part of what they call the West Bank. And it is making a big difference, a big impact here in the biblical heartland of Israel.
It's incredible. So it's inspiring, because as I walk about communities, and I walk about these communities in the areas here, it's like there's hundreds of children running everywhere. It's like, this place is like, it's unbelievable. And
well, we believe in that. We believe in having children, and I know that you two guys are members of a big family, and I think it's tremendous. We have an expression in Hebrew. When you talk about a big family, you don't just say big family. We call it mishpachot bruchot yeladim, families that are blessed with children. And it is indeed a blessing. And we here who live in Shiloh and who live in the biblical heartland of Israel, we have a lot of children. we don't hesitate to. We go ahead and we take that biblical commandment literally, and that it is a blessing to be fruitful and multiply. It's a lot of work, but it's a blessing. Down the road, you really learn to appreciate the blessing, and your children grow up, they have their own children, and then they come back to visit the grandparents, and then they leave. So the blessings are there. See, I can tell you guys are young because when I say that to grandparents, they always laugh. but it's really true. And yes, we're growing here. We're building for the future, and we consider ourselves to be an example to the world, a blessing from Zion, and an example, a light unto the nations. So you guys should start having children also, and I think
yeah, I'm working.
You give so much more significance to the work that you're doing, though, because there is so many children here that need that help that you're giving.
It's growing. The need for our services, grows all the time, and that's why I turn to people in the world. There are so many people out there who partner with us. So many Christians, some Jews, and all kinds of people are partnering with us. Not too many Muslims, but at this point, it's a tremendous partnership that we're building here. We're building partnerships between people who live here in Shiloh, who live in the Shiloh township, who live in Samaria as a whole, and also partnerships with people outside of Israel who are supporting our work.
So, having worked with children, what is the core values and the foundation that these children are building their lives off of? But you understand the question? There has to be a reason why the child feels patriotic or feels some source of identity. I want to say to why they're here.
Every child who grows up here is intrinsically and integrally bound to the land of Israel. They grow up understanding that all the sacrifices that we've experienced here are for a reason. You step outside my door, you walk across the street, just across the street from my house, and you're going to come to a family that lost its 16-year-old son in a terrorist attack. Then you go to the very next house on that block, and they lost the 17-year-old son in a terrorist attack. The house after that lost a 19-year-old daughter in a terrorist attack, and 4 houses down that street, they lost a 17-year-old son, a different 17-year-old child in a terrorist attack. You go around the corner from there, and a family lost a 5-month-old baby in a terrorist attack. That's the intensity of the terrorism. But the children here understand, they understand well, that the Almighty put us here for a reason, that we're here to rebuild the biblical heartland, that's why God put us here. And that is an awesome responsibility, but it's a responsibility that is a blessing. And so what we're trying to do at the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund is to build a life here for people that will be good, to build a life here for children that they can enjoy in their day-to-day lives. Not just getting over the trauma, but moving onward and restoring the lost innocence of childhood for all of the children who live here. And we're succeeding in that. We're doing a tremendous job. We've helped thousands of children at this point, all the way from northern Jerusalem and all the way up to the area of Elon Moreh and Itamar, and so we're having a tremendous impact for the children of Israel, and that's an exciting thing. I feel blessed to be a part of it.
So as the former mayor of Shiloh, can you explain to us and tell us a little bit about, from the beginnings of Shiloh till now, the growth that has taken place in this community?
Oh, sure. Well, the community started in 1978 as a little nucleus. It was reestablished 3,300 years after its former glory. And the land had laid barren for so long. Yes, 1978, first 8 families came in tents, and they established a community, and they had no running water, they had no telephone, 2 pregnant women, and no hospital. It was like a 2-hour ride to the hospital at that point until a new road was built. And it wasn't a simple thing, it wasn't an easy struggle. But I actually explained all this in my book, God, Israel, and Shiloh, Returning to the Land, about those early struggles. Thank God today we have about 7,000 people living in the Shiloh Township, and people of all ages, from all countries. We truly see the ingathering of the exiles here. And thank God, it's been a tremendous growth. We're hoping and praying for far more growth, and we're working at it. You know, I just heard that as we speak, that the President of the United States has expressed his displeasure at a new building project that's been announced in Samaria and in a lot of communities here. So my answer, as I said on my Facebook page, is I'm very sorry that they're upset. I'm not happy that they're upset. But nonetheless, we are going to continue to build homes for these young families and older families and any families that want to be here. And we're going to continue to build schools and playgrounds for the children. And we're going to expand our therapy center. And we're going to build for the future, for next generations here in the biblical heartland of Israel.
Can you explain why that is so important?
Well, look, it's a commandment from the Almighty. That's all that I need to know, that God told us to be here. It says in the Bible, throughout the Bible, it says that we are to perform God's commandments so that He will lengthen our days in the land in which we dwell. It's very clear. The message is very clear biblically and historically. If I look at it geopolitically, it's also very clear that we need to be here because by being here, that is going to change the geopolitical realities. I don't hesitate to say that. You know, some people, some Israeli spokesmen, official spokesmen, are apologetic when they talk about our right to the land of Israel. They say we need to maintain some of these areas in the West Bank because of security, because we need to protect our cities and we need to protect the heights of Samaria so that we could protect the airport in Tel Aviv. I say no. All those reasons are true, yes, but those are not the reasons why we have a right to this land. We have a right to this land because this is the land of Israel. This is the land that God gave to us. When Joshua stood here in Shiloh, he said, "How long will you wait before coming to take possession of the land that the Lord God of your fathers has given you?" Those words were not spoken just for that generation. They're spoken for all the generations. They're spoken for now. And they're not just spoken for the Jewish people or the people of Israel. They are spoken for all people of the world to be a part of. And every single person who stands with us here in the biblical heartland of Israel, whether they stand with us here in this place or whether they support us from afar, such as supporting our children's projects in the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund, they are helping to fulfill God's prophecies in our times. Nothing less than that.
So in your view, and I guess it's in a Christian view perspective here, what is your view like in connection to an eschatology of what's taking place here in the land? Do you feel like we're living in a time that we have never seen before? I mean, obviously 1948, I believe was directly correlated to prophecies that were spoken in the scriptures. What do you feel like's happening as far as Shiloh and what's happening around here that's connecting to that?
Well, it's very clear. It says in the book of Ezekiel I will bring you back into your land. It says that we're going to be scattered before. For over 2,000 years, we're going to be scattered around the world, that we're going to suffer persecution in all of those places, and we're going to be brought back into the land. We're going to be brought back to our place here. It says in the book of Jeremiah that we're going to be back here in the biblical heartland. It talks about Mount Ephraim, right? What Christians would say Ephraim probably. It talks about Mount Ephraim, and it says Mount Ephraim is Shiloh Township, by the way, and ancient Shiloh. So when we talk about that, and we talk about even Christians rebuilding the biblical heartland, we're talking about a major project that the world has never known. We're talking about a return of an ancient people to its ancient heartland that it was driven from over 3,000, at least Shiloh itself, over 3,000 years ago, and we're talking about the return to that land from the four corners of the earth, coming back into the land. We're talking about partnership where people from outside of Israel, non-Israelis, and even non-Jews are standing with us in these times in rebuilding the biblical heartland of Israel through the children. That's an amazing thing. It's something that has never happened and never will happen in this world. But the very fact that it's happening according to prophecy, according to things that we wrote about, that's my proof of the existence of God. I don't, when I speak to an atheist, I don't try and explain in scientific terms, even though you can explain in scientific terms why there is a God. I explain it in historical terms based on the history of Israel. That is the proof of God's existence and God's active participation in this world.
Mr. David, it's been an honor and a privilege to talk with you here and to see your real heart for the restoration of the land, and you're actually actively taking hold of it and helping this next generation to come up and to do the same as what you've done. So I think it's an amazing thing what you're doing. So keep up the incredible work.
Well, thank you. It's great being with you today.
Good being with you.
It's good.